Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Kennett, and I am a data scientist. So I know there are some hiring partners out there who will probably be watching this video later, so I wanted to start a little bit about me. I have about 3 years in the technical field. I've specialized a lot in Python, machine learning, as well as other technical things before that. I have a strong understanding of mathematical concepts and statistics. I attended Boston University and achieved my master's in finance. And then finally, I have over 10 years of experience in leadership roles that culminated in my military tenure that actually just ended not too long ago. My project today that I'll be talking about today is the Bert model. This is the structure of my presentation. I'm going to start with the history of Bert, talk a little bit about the data that I fine-tuned it on, the earning calls, which is the final data that I'll be able to feed into it to get that I'll be able to showcase the results. And then finally, I will talk about the feature, where I want to take this model in the future. So this is Bert and Ernie. Funny story, there's actually an Elmo model as well. However, that predates Bert, and therefore I will not be talking about that today. So Bert was a model created in Google's AI research lab. It was released in 2018. It is trained on a corpus of 10,000 books, as well as the entirety of the English Wikipedia. The model has 110 features overall. You can imagine those as tokens and or vocabulary that it knows. And then finally, Google actually still uses this model today to derive context from longer query searches. What makes Bert unique is that it's bidirectional. And in fact, in the research paper that was released with Bert, the researchers claimed it to be omnidirectional. Whereas previous models can only read left to right, Bert can read left to right, right to left, or more so derive context from the entire sentence at once. It makes extensive use of transformers. And then two of the big ones are its mass language model and its next sentence prediction, which I will talk about in the next slide. So here we go. This is from Google Research Labs. So the Bert model was initially trained on Wikipedia and 10,000 books. So it was done so by taking one or two sentences at a time. First of all, it replaces random words with a mask tag. And Bert measures how well it's doing by how well it's able to guess the word that was replaced by this tag. That is one way it is trained. The second way it is trained is by taking two sentences. The first sentence will always remain the same, and then the second sentence that's placed after it will either be complete gibberish, complete random, or sequential in nature. And it is Bert's job to classify whether the next sentence is sequential. So that's how it does well, pre-training. And then finally, this is where I jump in, and I was able to fine tune the model because obviously I don't have access to Wikipedia or 10,000 books in data in my computer. So I fine tuned the meta with the squad dataset. The squad dataset is a series of question and answers. So Bert is able to take what it's learned, especially from the next sentence prediction, and be able to take my question and create a next logical sentence. I talked about squad, over 100,000 questions and answer pairs. And then finally, at the end of my presentation, I will incorporate financial earnings calls, which are these really long transcripts of conversations between chief officers to the operators or whoever's running, and it usually has a series of question and answers. So really this can be done on any summative paragraph, but since my background's in finance, I'll be using it to find answers to inputted questions from earning call transcripts. So here we go. First off, You have to enter the company you wish Bert to refer to, the year, and the quarterly report. And then you can ask the question. So I started something simple. I said, who is Satya Nadella? And Bert actually did a pretty good job. He answered, he's the chief executive officer. And I was like, wonderful. That's not quite what I was looking for, though. What company is Satya Nadella chief executive officer of? I'm looking for the answer, Microsoft, of course. And it tells me Credit Suisse or whatever word that is. I don't know. I actually did my research after this. And well, obviously it's wrong, first of all. But I did my research afterwards. And it turns out that this company was actually mentioned in this transcript, which brings up a fundamental flaw of Bert. He's really good at finding answers, but he's so good that the answers are sometimes wrong. And I'll talk more about that later. So, well, here we go. What are the issues with squad trained Bert? And finally, what I would like to do in the future. So first of all, the model that I trained, or Bert overall, can only take in 512 tokens at a time. That's a very fundamental flaw. This is because, this implies that Bert's only good at taking in smaller paragraphs. And that's true. That's where he's mostly used for. In my case, I was trying to make use of longer paragraphs. So I implemented a technique of splitting and incorporating some of the context of the sentences before and the sentences after. So really, if I were to do this again, I would train my own Bert from scratch and to incorporate more parameters, as well as I would find a better way, or maybe brainstorm to search for a better way to finding better guesses. My Bert was trained on Squad 1.1. Squad 2 might be a better representation because there are questions in Squad 2 that don't always have answers. Some of the questions are unanswerable. So therefore, this would train Bert in order to say sometimes that he doesn't know. And finally, this last sentence, which I really enjoy, is that Bert doesn't know how to say no. He loves to Bert-splain, despite being obviously wrong. So here is my contact information. I'm going to leave it here for a couple seconds. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Or if you'd like to get in contact to work on future projects, I would love to hear from you. But now I'm going to move on because there is one thing I would like to end on. So I went back to my model and I said, hey Bert, what's the meaning of life? And Bert says back to me, he says, the meaning of life is to stay connected with your friends and family. I didn't realize Bert would be so wholesome, but here we are. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me.